Ukraine's economy has rebounded since the start of the invasion, but it's still well below pre-war levels. Many businesses that moved their operations out of conflict-ridden zones have started afresh elsewhere in Ukraine.
Others, meantime, adapted their businesses to wartime needs. CNA's Lim Yun-suk traveled to Ukraine recently, and she joins us now in studio. Morning, Yun-suk.
Good morning.
Welcome back to the show. Okay, look, we know you were in Ukraine. We also know that you spent a bit of time in Kyiv and Lviv, which are relatively far from the front lines. Can you tell us what life is like for people who live in the capital as well as in the western parts of the country?
You know, before I went to Ukraine, a lot of people said that it was business as usual. And I thought, how can that be? This country is at war. But being there for about a week, for about 6 to 7 days, it really is business as usual. It's like there is no war going on. Apart from the times when you hear the air sirens go on and they just go off and people are not running to shelters. They're just sort of like waiting for the air siren to stop, and then they go about whatever they've been doing. There was this one morning when I got up really early and I heard this big explosion at the hotel where I was staying. And I wondered, what was that? And I looked out the window. There was no rain, no thunderstorms. But apparently there was an attack. And that was about 20, 30 minutes away from where we were staying. Mm-hmm. But apart from those times, it really is business as usual in both cities. And everyone's going to restaurants, to cafes, the bars are packed with people. And a lot of people tell me that they do this because that is the way that they can go on living. And so not just the average Ukrainians, but a lot of the businesses have started to adapt to the changes, make changes. And in a way, the business owners say that they too are fighting this war, but in their own ways.
This clean tech startup uses recycled coffee grounds to produce eco-friendly disposable cups and scented candles. Rakava was set up by two men, Yuri Tustanovsky and Dmytro Bidyuk, 4 years ago. Not here in this room in the tech hub of Lviv in western Ukraine, but in Sumy, a region in the northeast bordering Russia. It came under attack the day the full-scale invasion began on 24th of February 2022.
We moved with Dmytro here in Lviv without colleagues and without some our facilities, and after 2 or 3 weeks staying here, we decided we should do this to Lviv and continue to work in new city, what we can do.
Like themselves, all members of their new team were displaced from regions of heavy fighting. They created a line of candles to remind Ukrainians there is light in dark times, and to bring comfort through the familiar sense of home. The candles are a bright spot for Rakava, which has seen total sales nearly double since the invasion. The founders want to contribute to war efforts, even if they are not on the front line.
The only wish is war, the victory, and if you are not in the army, you should do what you can for Ukrainian economy. Because we pay taxes, we pay salaries, and if it helps our employees and families to live a normal life.
The city of Lviv, the largest in Ukraine's west, has become the main hub for relocating businesses seeking to escape the worst of the fighting.
A lot of companies relocated, mostly from center of Ukraine or east of Ukraine to our city. And some of them was here for 1 month and coming back to their cities. Some of them stayed here and to open here some branches started.
He says among the 1,000 companies or so that moved here, about 100 remain. He wants to help grow high-tech firms that can contribute to the war and post-war recovery.
Especially, so it's medtech, it's defense tech, it's agri-food tech. Our idea to pay for some research and for some invention.
In the heart of Kyiv, it's hard to believe the country has been at war for 2 years. It's business as usual for many Ukrainians who are going about their daily lives.
This bespoke menswear studio in capital Kyiv is one of many businesses that stood firm in the face of attacks. InfoShift's owner, Katrina Vozyanova, fled to Lviv with her 2 children for 2 months when the war broke. She came back because this is home. But the war took away her staff.
We have several employees that came to the war. They volunteered. We have a lot of employees who have left abroad and they never came back. The beginning of the war was very challenging for us because our team is the most precious thing we have.
InfoShift drew up a new range of military-inspired classics that are more in line with the times to keep the business afloat when the market for luxury tailored suits shrank following the invasion. Demand has since rebounded, and now they're designing suits for frontline soldiers to wear on their wedding day.
We will tailor 12 bespoke suits, one in a month. For those guys, it will be free of charge. It's the way we express our gratitude to them for everything they're doing to us.
Ukraine's homegrown businesses have had to adapt to wartime, but they're ironing out the kinks, innovating, and even contributing to the war machinery by bolstering Ukraine's economy. Real GDP is expected to grow by 3.6% this year.
You know, the economy in general is not to the level pre-war levels, but at least they're adapting and they're finding different ways to be able to keep the economy going.
Right, pockets of opportunities as well from countries which may not have known about Ukraine in the first place.
Yeah, they're clearly very resilient. So, you know, businesses, they're really tough to run during the best of times, let alone during a war. What other challenges did these businesses face and how are they rising above them?
Well, as we saw in the story, there are businesses who have just remained where they were in the past, like that bespoke tailor-made suits company. She's been running this for 15 years, and she said she didn't want to go elsewhere. She just wanted to stay in the capital, Kyiv, and that's where she stayed. But the staff and the way that she runs their business has changed. But there's also a lot of companies that move to safer areas, like that Rykava candle company. It moved to Lviv on the western side. And in fact, it's not just the businesses that have changed, it's the cities themselves too. That city like Lviv has made changes, is trying to attract more IT companies, more startups, is giving free office spaces, no rent. And so the cities themselves have also tried to adapt. And you know, the business owners tell me that they're not out in the front line. They don't have the weapons that soldiers might have. But for them, keeping the businesses alive is one way of helping this war because they're paying taxes. They're employing people who are also paying taxes. And all those taxes, they believe, will be spent on the troops and the military. And so, you know, the way that they run their businesses, but everything they think is always towards the military about how we can win this war. And that really, you know, amazes me as to how they can still think about others when their own businesses are really down or it's difficult.
Right.
And so I guess that's how the Ukrainians have survived and have lived for the past 2 years.
Incredible. Incredible story. Thank you so much again for bringing us all these stories, your experiences, from Ukraine and your time there. We look forward to more. We'll see you again tomorrow. Meantime, thank you. Lim Yoon Suk is, of course, our Korea correspondent, and she was in Ukraine recently.